It was a rainy evening in New York City, the kind where the streets glistened under the soft glow of neon signs and the distant hum of traffic blended with the patter of raindrops. Inside a cozy diner on the corner of 42nd Street, the air smelled of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries. The place was nearly empty, save for a few regulars hunched over their cups and a young girl in a wheelchair near the window. Her name was Emily, a delicate figure with blonde pigtails and a red dress that stood out against the muted tones of the diner. Her face, marked with faint bruises, told a story she wasn't ready to share. Beside her, a waitress named Tara knelt, offering a small plate of cake with a gentle smile. Tara's uniform, gray with a navy apron, fit her perfectly, her dark hair tied up in a neat bun, and her eyes carried a warmth that made the cold night feel a little less harsh. Outside, through the rain-streaked glass, a man stood under the awning, his trench coat damp and his expression unreadable. The yellow text overlay on the image labeled him, Billionaire, a title that seemed to hover over him like a shadow. His name was Daniel Hart, a figure known in the city's elite circles, a man whose wealth could buy silence or secrets. He watched Emily with a mix of concern and calculation, his hands buried deep in his pockets as the rain continued to fall. The diner's lights reflected off the wet pavement, casting a soft halo around him, but his presence felt heavy, almost intrusive. Tara handed Emily a fork, her voice soft as she said, "Go on, sweetie, you deserve a treat." Emily hesitated, her small hands trembling slightly as she took the utensil. The bruises on her face weren't fresh, but they were vivid enough to suggest a recent struggle. She glanced toward the window, her eyes meeting Daniel's for a brief moment before she looked down at the cake. Tara noticed the exchange but said nothing, her focus returning to the plate as she adjusted it on Emily's lap. The diner's jukebox hummed faintly in the background, a forgotten tune from the 50s that seemed out of place in the modern chaos of the city. Daniel pushed open the door, the bell above it jingling softly as he stepped inside. The air shifted, a subtle tension rippling through the room. The few patrons glanced up briefly before returning to their meals, accustomed to the comings and goings of strangers. Tara stood, smoothing her apron, and offered a polite nod. "Table for one?" she asked, her tone professional yet cautious. Daniel shook his head, water dripping from his coat onto the checkered floor. "I'm here for her," he said, his voice low but firm, nodding toward Emily. Emily stiffened, her fork hovering midair. Tara's smile faded slightly as she stepped between them, her protective instinct kicking in. "She's just having her dinner," Tara said, her words measured. "If you're family, you can sit with her. If not, you'll need to wait." Daniel's lips twitched, a hint of amusement or irritation, she couldn't tell which. He pulled a chair from a nearby table and sat across from Emily without asking, his movements deliberate. "I'm not family," he admitted, "but I'm here to help." The rain outside grew heavier, drumming against the windows as if urging the scene to move faster. Emily's eyes darted between Tara and Daniel, her grip tightening on the fork. "I don't know you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. Daniel leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "You don't have to know me yet," he replied. "But I know what happened to you. And I can make sure it doesn't happen again." His words hung in the air, heavy with promise and something darker. Tara crossed her arms, her stance unwavering. "She's a minor, sir. If you've got something to say, you can say it to me or to the police. Your choice." Daniel's gaze shifted to Tara, assessing her with the same cool precision he might use in a boardroom. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said, reaching into his coat pocket. Tara tensed, but he only produced a business card, sliding it across the table. It read, "Daniel Hart, Hart Enterprises, in sleek black lettering, followed by a phone number and email. "Call me when you're ready to talk," he told Emily, then stood and headed for the door. The bell jingled again as he left, the rain swallowing him into the night. Tara picked up the card, frowning as she turned it over in her hands. Emily stared at the uneaten cake, her appetite gone. "Who was that?" Tara asked gently, kneeling again. Emily shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't know," she murmured. "But he knew my name." The diner grew quiet again, the jukebox clicking off as the last song ended. Tara placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, offering silent comfort. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious to the small drama unfolding within its walls. The rain showed no sign of stopping, and neither did the questions swirling in Tara's mind. She glanced at the business card again, wondering what kind of help a billionaire could offer, and what he might want in return. Hours passed, and the diner's night shift began to wind down. Tara cleared Emily's table, wrapping the leftover cake in a napkin for her to take. The girl had grown quieter, her gaze fixed on the rain-soaked street. "You don't have to go back out there tonight," Tara said, her voice soft but firm. "You can stay here until we figure something out." Emily nodded weakly, her hands clutching the napkin. Tara knew the shelters were full this time of year, and the thought of sending Emily back to whatever situation had left her bruised gnawed at her. The phone behind the counter rang, breaking the silence. Tara answered it, her brow furrowing as she listened. "Yes, she's here," she said after a moment, glancing at Emily. "Who's calling?" There was a pause, then she hung up, her expression unreadable. "That was someone from Hart Enterprises," she told Emily. "They said Mr. Hart arranged a room for you at a hotel downtown. They'll send a car." Emily's eyes widened, a mix of relief and fear crossing her face. "Why would he do that?" she asked. Tara didn't have an answer. She helped Emily into her coat, the wheelchair's wheels squeaking as they moved toward the door. The car arrived minutes later, a sleek black sedan that stood out against the gritty backdrop of the street. The driver, a middle-aged man with a stern face, stepped out and opened the door. "Miss Emily?" he asked, his tone neutral. Tara hesitated, then nodded. "I'll call you tomorrow," she promised Emily, handing her the napkin-wrapped cake. As the car pulled away, Tara watched until the taillights disappeared into the rain. She returned inside, locking the door behind her. The diner felt emptier now, the weight of the night settling in. She sat at the counter, staring at Daniel's business card. Something about this didn't sit right, but she couldn't deny the relief of knowing Emily was safe for the night. The city outside buzzed on, its rhythm unchanged, but within the diner's walls, a new story had begun. The next morning, the rain had eased into a drizzle, the city waking slowly under a gray sky. Tara arrived at the diner early, her mind still on Emily. She dialed the number on the business card, her fingers trembling slightly. A receptionist answered, her voice crisp. "Hart Enterprises, how may I assist you?" Tara explained who she was and asked about Emily. "She's with Mr. Hart," the receptionist said. "He's arranging for her care. You can speak with him directly if you'd like." Tara agreed, and soon Daniel's voice came on the line. "Thank you for looking after her last night," he said, his tone smoother than she remembered. "She's been through a lot. I'm working with social services to ensure she gets the help she needs." Tara pressed for details, but Daniel was vague, promising to update her later. She hung up, uneasy but hopeful. The diner's morning rush began, customers filtering in with their usual chatter, but Tara's thoughts remained elsewhere. Days turned into a week, and Emily's absence left a quiet hole in the diner's routine. Tara received occasional updates from Daniel. Emily was in a foster home now, receiving medical attention and counseling. The bruises were healing, but the full story remained elusive. Tara wondered about the billionaire's involvement, his motives unclear. Was he a guardian angel or someone with an agenda? The question lingered as she served coffee and wiped down tables, the city's pulse steady around her. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Daniel returned to the diner. He looked different, less imposing, more human. He carried a small bag, which he set on Emily's usual table. "She wanted you to have this," he said, sliding the bag toward Tara. Inside was a thank you note in Emily's handwriting, along with a drawing of the diner, its windows glowing warmly against the rain. Tara smiled, her chest tightening. "Tell her I miss her," she said. Daniel nodded, his expression softening. "I will, and thank you for everything." He left as quietly as he'd come, the bell jingling behind him. Tara looked at the drawing, the rain outside mirroring the night they'd met. The city had moved on, but for her, this story was far from over. She pinned the drawing above the counter, a reminder of the girl who'd brought a billionaire and a waitress together in the most unexpected way. Weeks later, the diner hosted a small gathering. Emily, now healthier and smiling, visited with her new foster family. Tara hugged her tightly, the bruises gone but the bond between them stronger. Daniel stood in the background, watching with a faint smile. The rain had stopped, and for the first time in weeks, the sky cleared, casting a golden light through the diner's windows. The jukebox played again, and laughter filled the room, a rare, fleeting moment of peace in the heart of the city. As the evening wore on, Tara caught Daniel's eye. He raised his coffee cup in a silent toast, and she returned it, acknowledging the strange journey that had brought them here. Emily wheeled over, offering Tara a piece of cake, the same kind from that first night. The cycle felt complete, yet new questions lingered. What had driven Daniel to act? What scars remained unseen? The answers didn't come, but for now, the diner's warmth was enough. The city outside buzzed with its endless energy, but inside, the story of Emily, Tara, and Daniel unfolded quietly. The rain would return, as it always did, but so would the resilience of those who faced it. Tara served another round of coffee, her smile genuine, knowing she'd played a part in a life turned toward hope. The drawing above the counter fluttered slightly in the breeze from an open window, a testament to the unexpected connections forged in the rain-soaked streets of New York. Months passed, and the diner became a regular stop for Emily and her foster family. Tara watched her grow, the wheelchair now a symbol of strength rather than limitation. Daniel's visits grew less frequent, but his influence lingered. New equipment for the foster home, a scholarship fund in Emily's name. The billionaire's role remained a mystery, but his actions spoke louder than words. Tara kept the business card, a memento of the night that changed everything. One autumn evening, as leaves fell outside and the diner glowed with its familiar warmth, Emily brought news. She'd been accepted into an art program, her drawings gaining recognition. Tara beamed, proud as if Emily were her own. Daniel arrived unexpectedly, presenting Emily with a sketchbook, his gesture simple but meaningful. The room filled with quiet celebration, the jukebox playing a soft melody. As the night ended, Tara locked up, the drawing still pinned above the counter. The city slept, its rhythm steady, but within the diner's walls, a story of redemption and connection had taken root. The rain might return, but so would the light, carried by the people who found each other in its midst. Emily's laughter echoed in Tara's memory, a sound that promised more than the past, a future shaped by kindness, however it began. The seasons changed, and with them, the diner's patrons. New faces came and went, but Emily's table remained a quiet tribute. Tara aged gracefully, her hair now streaked with gray, but her spirit undimmed. Daniel's name faded from the headlines, his wealth a distant echo, but his impact lingered in the lives he'd touched. One winter night, as snow fell gently outside, Emily returned, now a young woman with a portfolio under her arm. She hugged Tara, her eyes bright with dreams. They sat together, sharing cake and stories, the diner a sanctuary against the cold. The drawing above the counter had yellowed, but its glow endured. Daniel's role remained a footnote, a catalyst whose motives were his own. Tara didn't need to know more, the result was enough. The city moved on, its heartbeat constant, but within these walls, a legacy of hope had been built, one slice of cake, one act of kindness at a time. Years later, the diner stood as a landmark, its neon sign a beacon in the night. Tara had retired, passing the keys to a new generation, but she visited often. Emily's art adorned the walls, her success a testament to the night that started it all. The rain fell occasionally, but the warmth inside never faded. Daniel's shadow had long since passed, his story woven into the fabric of this place. The jukebox played on, and the city lived, its stories overlapping like the raindrops on the window, each one unique, yet part of something greater.